All right, hello everyone. This is Rabbi Bolton speaking from Crown Heights in the small apartment that we rented over here. So it's not very, how do you say, pictorial, the background and etc. But the topic is good. We're going to learn here a sikha from the Lubavitcher Rebbe that he said in, 1960, something like that, 1963. We'll look and see in the end. And it's about Sukkot, and it's especially about the the four minim, what's called the four minim. And the Jewish people, we have this commandment. It's one of the 613 commandments, namely on the holiday of Sukkot, in the daytime, we take four different types of vegetation, special that are specially elucidated in the Torah. They're not elucidated; they're elucidated. They're hinted at the Torah, and they're elucidated. They're explained in the Talmud what exactly they are. And what it comes out to be is that there's what's called a lulav, and the commandment is called on this lulav. The lulav is the central branch, the central, leaves of a palm tree. They come out, you see it's big, it's tall, it's higher than all the other. And then you take a citrus fruit, which is called the Etrog. I even happen to have one that I bought yesterday. That I just bought. There you go. Let me look over here. Looks pretty nice, I think. And some of these things go for like a really expensive price. See, here's a nice big Etrog. See, Etrog. There it is. Put it next to my head. See how big it is. And then we have, and that's two types, right? And then we have what's called hyssop. Hyssop is it's a stem, and there's three leaves that grow on it, and the leaves look like sort of like lips. And then we have two branches of a willow tree. You put this whole business together, and you shake it. And you make a blessing, Al Natilat Lulav. And that's the commandment. Why God decided that he wanted us to do this, maybe we'll get a little bit of an insight, but the essential thing is not so much why he decided, even though that's important, but that God decided that that's what he wants us to do. Just like God decided he wants us to have two eyes, and the two eyes are on both sides of our nose. I couldn't have our nose on one side, or the nose on the top, something like that. A third eye wouldn't hurt. We got one mouth over here. Why not put the mouth over there? Why not? So anyway, God decided all these things, how he wants dogs to look and cats to look and people to look. And also he decided in general what he wants people to do. People shouldn't kill, even non-Jews are not supposed to kill, and there's within certain restrictions, and there's many things that he wants the Jews to do, and even more things that he wants the Jews to stop themselves from doing. In any case, there's 365 what's called negative commandments, and there's 248 positive commandments. Negative commandments are the prohibitions. And then there's all the commandments of the rabbis. But now here's one of the commandments of the Torah, and it's called taking these four different types of vegetation, putting them together, and shaking them. We also hold it when we say this prayer in the daytime of praising God called Hallel. Okay, let's see how much we can get done. We'll learn for about a half an hour, and I hope we can, God willing, continue tomorrow. Es is mavur in Chassidus, it's in Yiddish. Es is mavur in Chassidut, it is explained in Chassidut as the only inyanim that everything Velchazayin and Faran, which are in Rosh Hashanah, and in the Panemius Rosh Hashanah, and on what's called the inside of Rosh Hashanah, Yom, and in the inside of Rosh Hashanah, which is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur expresses the inside of what's Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, we declare God to be a king, and like we're sort of far. And Yom Kippur, we really get into the inside of this relationship. We're like sons of the king, all these things which are in Rosh Hashanah and in Yom Kippur, Behelim concealed, Bechesa, like it says, Bechesa, Kuman ze arois come out in Liyom Chagenu in Sukkot. This comes from a sentence in Psalms. Tiku b'chodesh shover bechesed Liyom Chagenu. So everything in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, now again, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are very special because Rosh Hashanah, this is especially the relationship between God and man. That's the day man was created. And the idea was man was supposed to be totally devoted to God. God is his creator. But he wasn't. So it had to wait 2,000 years until Abraham came along. And that's the Jewish religion. The Jewish religion is to be totally devoted to God, not to think about going to world to come, not thinking about heaven, not thinking about anything, just to think about what God wants, like Abraham did. That's Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur is even deeper. Yom Kippur, the high priest would go into the Holy of Holies. Now, all this stuff is hidden. It's all concealed. This is the inner, and Sukkot that comes in, it's all revealed. And this is hinted at in one of the Psalms of King David, Tiku b'chodesh shover b'chesed liyom chagenu. Sound and shofar, the shofar on b'chodesh in the beginning of the month, and it comes revealed, and all this is b'chesed, it's concealed, liyom chagenu, to our day, our holiday, which is Sukkot. So everything, all these mysterious connections between the Jewish people and God, which are connected on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, they come out in a revealed way in Sukkot, because you have to remember the purpose of the Jewish people is like the purpose of Adam, first man, to fix the world up, to make the world a perfect place according to what God wants. From the Inyanim Ikorim, one of the main things of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is the uniting of all of the Jews. Because the Inyanim demo, the avodah demo, because the service then on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is Dach mit Pnimis and Neshama, it's with the inside of the soul. Now, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur are things you only do because you're Jewish. Making God a king, going into the Holy of Holies, it's only for Jewish people. That's what it means, Bakshu Panai. We look for the inside of the Jew and the inside of God. Umitzad Pnimis and Neshama, because of the inside of the soul, all of the Jews are the same. Therefore, for Einigen, therefore they unite, the Jews unite, Allah zusammen all together. Nitzavim, like it says, like we read a couple of weeks ago, Nitzavim hayom kulchem, all the Jews are standing together from Rosh Hashanah, from the heads of the tribes to Chutzev Ezecha Shoev Mecha, to the most, mundane Jews, those who, the wood choppers and the drawers of the water, which doesn't require much talent to do. All the Jews are all together. If one Jew is missing, then something is missing in the whole Jewish body. And the Yisachtos, and this unification of all the Jews, comes in a revealed way, like everything else from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur in the holiday of Sukkot. This holiday is going to be a holiday of 7 days of Sukkot. Outside of Israel, it's 8 days. And then we have another day tacked onto the end of it, which is called Shmini Atzeret Simchat Torah. Vi Zocht, like it says in the Midrash, as the Dalid meaning, that the 4 meaning that I told you about, right? These 4 different types of vegetation that you hold on to and you shake. And Sukkot, they hint at 4 oif, all the different types of Jews. From the Jews which called the heads to the feet. For instance, there is Pri-Eitz Hadar, there are, like it says in the Midrash, Pri-Eitz Hadar, that Etrog, that thing that I just showed you. These are the Jewish people, just like an Etrog has got in it a taste. It's a citrus fruit that has a taste, and it also has a good smell. So there's also Jews that have Sheyesh Bayam Bnei Adam. There are some of them that they have Torah. Torah is like taste. First of all, the word in Hebrew for taste and the word for reason is the same. tam. So that's the etrog. It has a taste to it. Taste hints at people who learn the Torah. And they have good deeds. That's a good smell. Why are good deeds like a smell? Because a smell is something that doesn't go inside of you. Same thing is also good deeds. In this case, the commandments, these are things you can't really understand. Why does God want us to do these commandments? Is basically not understandable. One of the most not understandable of them all is the sacrifices. I mean, that's just ridiculous, the sacrifices. That's primitive. Why Judaism sacrifices, but that's what God wants. That's the whole book of Leviticus. So it's without taste. The commandments are without smell. I'm sorry, without smell. I'm sorry, this is wrong. The commandments, they are only smell. That's what it means, only smell, not understandable. The Torah is represented by taste that has reason, and the commandments are not reasonable. That is represented by the smell. The etrog has both taste and smell. Etrog has in it a taste and a smell. This hints at the type of Jews which have Torah, taste, because learning Torah has to be with understanding. That's the thing of taste, taking it inside. In was der Mensch hat Geschmack, and a person has a taste in it, a good pleasure. And he also has to have good deeds that smell, because mitzvahs, the commandments, are mainly done not with understanding, but what's called Kabbalat Ol, accepting the yoke. Okay, so that's one of the four types of vegetation of this lulav and etrog, is the etrog, that fruit that I just showed you, which that's, first of all, it's the most expensive. There's etrogs that sell for like $500 over here. If you get a nice, beautiful one. And that represents Jews that are learning Torah, because that's like taste. And also it has a smell to it. So that's like the Jews that they are good at doing the commandments as well. Then there's another type of vegetation we use, is kappa tamorim. That's the central lulav branch. Those are the Jewish people, just like a tamara, just like the leaves of the date tree. Dates have a taste, but dates, interestingly enough, do not have any smell. So the lulav, that represents Jews that the main thing that they have is just a taste. That's the Torah. But they don't have good deeds, which is represented by smell. Kapot tamorim, that's the lulav. This shows the type of Jews. We're just translating it into Yiddish. So there are some Jews that they're big in learning Torah and also doing good deeds. And then there's Jews that their main thing is just doing Torah. They do deeds, but they're not, how do you say, shining in their good deeds. They do it by the way. Then there's avos, it's avos. That's what's called the Yisrael. That's the hadas. Hadas, I think in English it's called a hyssop. That has a good smell. Some people use it for Motzi Shabbat, when they make a smell on Havdalah. That's a good smell, but it hasn't got any taste. There's also Jews that they have smell, we said, represents the commandments. They do good deeds, but they don't have Torah. He explains in Yiddish. Arvei Nachal. This is a quote from the Gemara. These also represents the Jewish people, just like Arvei Nachal, the willow tree. There's two branches of the willow tree also put together. They have a taste, but they don't have a smell. Arvei Nachal, I'm sorry. They don't have a taste and they don't have a smell. Willow tree, a branch of a willow tree. Does it smell? No. Taste? No. Also, there's Jewish people that they don't have Torah and they don't have good deeds. Arava, we're translated in Yiddish. Okay, so you need all four types. I didn't see that. Okay. Oh, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. We got some problems over here. How do we do this thing over here? We got. 1 second. Don't give up. For some reason, it's not moving over. All right, what are we going to do? We will stop the share. Start the share. Let's see, we're back here. 1 second. I'm sorry. It's not going to the middle of the page, so I can't. As a result, I can't read what it says over here. Oh, here it is. There we go. Good. There we go. Good. Okay, God says, Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu, so God says, let's see, is this thing, something's wrong over here. Excuse the difficulties, please. Oh. Why is this not centered? All right. So we already have the different 4 types of vegetation, right? Which are represented by the lulav and the etrog, and the hadas and the willow tree. Says God, make them all one together, and they will bring forgiveness one to the other. Even more, as wird of oifketan, if there is actus by means of unifying all these types together, and also the unification which is brought by sitting in a sukkah, this is even greater than the unity than we had on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which we said was so very important. And there is actus because in the unity of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we don't feel the unification of all the different types of Jews. All the Jews just become one in their avoda. And for instance, when you sound the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and when you do tshuva on Yom Kippur, you don't feel, all you feel is just a general thing. We're all Jews, we're all together, and we're making God a king, or we're bringing forgiveness. The other Yidden, but we feel how all the Jews are the same. By this, that namely inside of the soul, we'll see but there is not noticeable the verschiedenkeit, the differences between the different types of Jews. It's all beches, it's all concealed. But in the holiday of Sukkot, Ken and the Alachilukim, all these different types, they all come out in a revealed way. As Herzich on the Etrog, we feel that there's some Jews that they're very special, big, how do you say, tzaddikim, and they're great at Torah and also in good deeds. Then there's some people that they're like the Lulov. They have Torah, main thing is Torah, etc. Exactly the opposite. Not only are the 4 types, do they bear one another, but the commandment demands that they have to have 4 different types of Jews, 4 different types of vegetation, indicating these 4 different types of Jews. And from deswegen, and nevertheless, there has to be different, despite their differences, or because of the differences, this makes one big, beautiful commandment. Do one more paragraph. Okay, so according to what it says in the Midrash, is Kumtai, so it comes out, is the Hechster from the Olafir, meaning that the highest of all these four is the is the Etrog. Because the Etrog, it has both things, taste and smell. One air is Maramas in the sense that the highest type of Jews which are learn Torah and they do the commandments. According to that, it's not understood. Why is it that we make a blessing on Natilas Lulav? When we take these four types, what blessing do we make? Al Natilat Lulav. The blessing that we make on the four is, blessed are you, God, King of the universe, that you blessed, you made us holy with your commandments, and you command us to take the Lulav. It doesn't say to take the four types. It says the reason is, why do we make a blessing off the Lulav? Because it's higher than all the other four types. But we have to understand that everything, and especially in the commandments, they are so in physical because that's the way they are in their source in spiritual. If so, how can it be that the lulav is higher than all of the others? This must indicate the fact that spiritually somehow or that it's higher than all the other types that are there, including even the etrog. So somehow or other, these Jews, that all the main thing is they have Torah. That's what sticks out. That's the thing of the lulav. It's like the dates that have only a taste. That's Torah. How is that higher than the etrog, which has both? The Chorah versus the Mila. What's the greatness in the lulav over the etrog? The lulav, it only main thing it only has taste, and the etrog has both. We can understand by the difference between Torah and commandments. And for some reason, Jews, that their main thing is Torah, that's the highest type, or the most valuable, if you want to call it Jew. That's the most Jewish of the Jews. Why? Mishras on the Mitzvahs says that they are limbs of the king, the commandments of the king, limbs of the king. By Torah, it says that the Torah and God are totally one, not just limbs. The limbs from the body, they are not one thing with the person. I'm gonna do one more. 1 minute. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. Why am I having troubles? Here we go. Let's just 1 second. Let me get this thing back over here. So what do we say? That the commandments, that's like the limbs, and the Torah, that's totally one with God. The commandments are the limbs of God. So therefore the Torah is totally, what we say, negated to the soul. The limbs, they are negated to the soul, and they do immediately what the person wants. As soon as the soul wants something to happen, as it happens, right? You ever see a person that he knows how to type or play piano, or just in general, a person when he wants to eat, he wants to sleep, so his arms and legs, they move automatically. But nevertheless, the limbs, which that corresponds to the commandments, which are called the limbs of God, the limbs express the soul immediately, but they're not the soul. And that's what it is also with the commandments. The commandments are, and they express the surrender, the unification of the Jews with God, because when a Jew does what God wants, he's a vessel for God's will. But he remains, nevertheless, the commandments, a person who does a commandment, he is not totally unified with the commander. Un and he, there it is. Un and he tut und folgt ois dem Ratzon Elyon. He does what God wants, aber der verbleibt uns, there we go. Und wird nicht eins, but he's not totally one with the Creator when he does a command, which is not the case when a person learns Torah. When a person learns Torah, as he has understanding, and what is this understanding? The understanding, that's the commandment. So to speak, his ideas in his mind, that's the commandment he's doing. It's not like when a person does a Lulov or Etrog or puts on tefillin or whatever, he's holding something in his hand. So the commandment is something separate from him, which is not the case when you learn Torah, that your the thoughts, that's the commandment. So he becomes totally united with the wisdom of God. Be sein engenem sees until his own existence is so with his whole being, and therefore his own being, so to speak, becomes one with God, which is not the case by means of, I'm sorry, when he does a commandment, he's not unified with God totally, which is not the case when he learns Torah, understanding, as opposed to their seichel, his mind from a Jew, so to speak, is connected and becomes the wisdom of God. Biz as sein seichel, until his mind, his Torah mind, becomes totally united with God. He and God's wisdom are one. Now, a person can ask a question: what's this mean? When you do a commandment, so you're united with God, but in an external way, you become, so to speak, a vessel for God's will. But when you learn the Torah, so it's not that you become a vessel for God's will, you become God's will. Your thought becomes God's thought. God's thought becomes your thought. So it's totally one. So a person can ask a question, okay, one second. If you become really unified with God, so why don't you do all sorts of miracles, or your eyes start shining out or something like that? So the answer to that question is that that what happens in this physical world is only the outside, the crust of what's happening in the inner spiritual worlds, number one. Number two, learning the Torah, if you learn it like in a university, so that doesn't really have any effect whatsoever. Maybe a certain tiny effect. It can. It says that a person should learn the Torah for the wrong reason, because eventually that might bring it to the right reason. But what is the right reason? The right reason is to do what God wants. So if a person, let's say, he does all sorts of miracles and his eyes shine, and all that could be not what God wants. God wants this world to be a good world. By learning the Torah, we make the world a little bit better. Make the world a little bit better. It's a little bit more difficult for people to get sick, for people to get, they say, the destructive or self-destructive, whatever. It purifies the air. It makes the place what's called more holy, more alive. So there's a lot of bad in the world, a lot of evil in the world, and we don't need miracle workers. What we need is a little bit less ignorance, a little bit less darkness. And that's what happens when we learn the Torah. Okay, if you build, because this uniting main thing of learning the Torah is completely one with God, which this was very durach them, which happens by means of learning the Torah. So now it's understandable why it is was a Yid geht sich up mit learning Torah, verstehen Torah, when a person is more unified, when he learns the Torah and understands Torah, this is somehow or other more unified with God. So therefore, that's the reason a person is totally upgegeben, totally devoted to learning Torah. That's like the Lulav. The Lulav, that's a person that he does the commandments, but the main thing is that he's devoted mainly to Torah. Sheish mem Torah, the people that have Torah, but not so much good deeds. Certainly we're talking about that he has good deeds, but it's not the main thing. That's what he said over here. It has to be that he's doing commandments, because if not, then he's not doing what God wants, and he's not carrying out what he's learning about. And God says to a person that doesn't do the commandments, don't learn my Torah. Right? Nor, but, Nachmer, even more, afilu, even, They get an orphan from Isser al pi Shulchan Aruch. Nitan, of course, he does the commandments and he does everything he's supposed to, and he doesn't do any transgressions. But the main thing is erhad nit stam meisim tovim, is dach kala omer ein li ala Torah. I feel in Torah, it says a person that learns Torah but doesn't do the commandments, is he really hasn't got any Torah either. So that which we see that the Lulav represents people that have Torah and not the commandments, doesn't mean it doesn't have the commandments. It means that what was is yamakam, it does the commandments, erhat maisim tovim, but belois oif azoi fil, only as much as he must have according to the law of the Torah. The main thing is that shines out by him is that he's a Torah Jew, that he learns the Torah, he understands the Torah. He's how do you say, involved in the Torah all the time. Is there men miyuchad ve'elokus, is more unified with God than this type of etrog, which the etrog does both Torah and the commandments, because he is ibergiving, he's totally devoted not only to Torah itself, not just Torah, even afilu when the under zach is kiyum ratzon, even though that what he's doing is he's doing the commandments, which that's the will of God, but nevertheless, when he is doing the commandments, he is zeitweilig, he's temporarily in a way of a tzavta v'chibur through the commandments. And the commandments is not such a deep unity as it is as the Torah is. Okay, so now we can understand the Jewish people are all valuable to God. You have to have all four types to do this commandment. But the most valuable of all are those that spend most of their energy and most of their time in learning the Torah in order to do what it says, of course, in the Torah. But they're devoted to the godliness in the Torah. And the godliness in the Torah is somehow much deeper and more essential to Judaism than the godliness in the commandments. When the Rebbe, that therefore, this stresses that when you take the four different types, namely the four different types of Jews, so the Lulav is the highest. On the Lulav, we make the blessing. This is a totally unit, because the Lulav is Torah, which only through the Torah can be accomplished total unification with God. That your mind becomes united with God's mind. You have God's ideas in your mind. And therefore, it is by the Jews, those that are talking about the Jews would give themselves totally away to learning the Torah, because the whole intention of taking the four different meanings, the Lulav and Etrog, this is to unify all of the Jews between them. And the only way to really unite the Jews together is through the Torah. Was kommt durch dem Isachtus, this comes from the Jews with God. This is a true unity. And therefore, what Rebbe is going to say later on, therefore we see that the Lulav also shakes. And people, when they learn the Torah, they also shake. They move back and forth slowly, because it's like a flame. It's a total unity with God that can be achieved only through the Torah in this world. And that's what really unites all the Jews together, all the different four types of Jews. As God willing, I hope we'll talk about more tomorrow. Have a happy holiday and a happy Shabbos, by the way, a good Shabbos. And God willing, we'll continue this tomorrow.